We've got some stats. Starlink works for our users a little over 99% of the time, which,
is not great.
That's days a year it doesn't work. So it turns out that if you go to Starlink and say, I am an enterprise and I am willing to pay extra for reliability,
An SLA,
a service level agreement, the highest you can get from them is 99.9%. They're willing to give you a guarantee that it'll work 99.9% of the time.
Better than GitHub.
Which means 8 hours and 46 minutes a year of downtime. And they'll tell you they did a great job.
Rain, yeah. So it turns out that Starlinks are operating on a frequency that is deeply affected by the range.
How much does rain actually affect?
Looks like roughly 50%.
There was a peer-reviewed study. They said that the downloads were slowed 35%. The uploads were slowed down 52%. The thing is, the downloads are 200-300 megabits. The uploads are like 30 or 50 megabits. Losing half of 50 megabits, that's brutal.
So the Ka band is
the gigahertz.
Okay.
Up in the,
so it's easily obstructed.
Slightly exaggeration. Doesn't get through a leaf.
Which is
close to
matters less if you're looking up at the sky, but
that's why you have to get a clear view of the sky, right?
And we've got obstruction maps on a per dish basis too. So if you have multiple Starlinks out there, you can see the obstruction map for each of them.
That story, the Navy in California a couple months ago,
their drones were swimming with the fishes.
They had 24 water drones, unmanned surface vehicles, boats, robot boats, and they were testing 24 of them off the coast of California, and then Starlink went out. And all the robot boats just stopped and sat there. And it's like, guys, this has to be one of several choices if you're going to use it in a mission-critical situation. I mean, it's okay to use Starlink, but when the Starlink stops working, you have to be able to go to radio, you have to use lasers, you have to have smarts on the boats. They don't just stop. Because it's very easy for an enemy to block Starlink, and it's very easy for, weird things to happen. Like rain. Think of the Navy, right? 24 ships in August 25 going offline and the robot boats just floating there. Because you need redundancy. You need backup.
Yeah, I don't understand how they could have messed up that severely. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, how much do you think these little robot boats even cost? I mean, you're putting that out into the middle of the ocean. I mean, $100,000 for a machine. You give it one internet link. That's it. Absolutely not.
Yeah, or it's got to be smart enough that when it loses the link, no big deal. We keep doing the mission, right?
I'm sure it's not.
It wouldn't hit the newspaper like all these dumb Navy boats just floating there needing to be rescued.
Dumber than a Roomba.
Dumber than a Roomba. Yeah. So I mean, the Navy had their safety people had flagged it, right? There was a report saying, this is a really dangerous thing to do. Back in 2022, there's one of these giant solar storms, right? There was a huge explosion on the surface of the sun. And when the waves hit, it took out 38 brand new Starlink satellites.
So what are solar storms? Is that like the sun has this huge electromagnetic field?
Yes. And what ends up coming towards us is charged particles. There's a little burst of radiation, but that isn't the actual problem. It's either protons or electrons at super high speed come slamming into the atmosphere.
Which is kind of the effect of like an EMP.
Well, that's not what took out the satellites. What took out the satellites is that when they hit the surface of the atmosphere expanded. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. The Earth's atmosphere, when hit with all these electrons, expanded. And the air came up until the satellites had more drag, and it slowed them down. And when you're in orbit,
then you fall to
you're falling at the Earth, but you're going so fast you keep missing it. So if anything slows you down, you fall out of space. Oh, wow. And that's what happened. The atmosphere expands when the solar storm hits it.
So these are examples of Starlink outages. So does Starlink have ground stations?
Yes. The way Starlink works, the default, is it really is just a single hop. You shoot up to the satellite that bounces a signal right back down to a ground station near you. This is why there are areas that Starlink has support and will sell you consumer dishes, and there are areas they don't have support yet. Because you're bouncing down to a base station within, something like 150 miles of you most of the time. Now, they have other options. The Starlinks now have laser communications between each other. So if you're in the middle of the ocean, and this is why maritime time costs more, you're shooting up to a satellite who's then lasering over to another satellite that's close enough to the ground to beam your data down. So where we talk about how low the latency is on a Starlink, 20 milliseconds, it's almost as good as just plugging into the Comcast. That's not true in the middle of the ocean. When you're in the middle of the ocean, there start being more hops and more distance and packets go further. laser, things start slowing down. But oh my God, you're in the middle of the ocean, you have internet.
The lasers between Starlinks are just like fiber optics without the fiber.
Correct. That is exactly right. And in fact, Starlink is now selling as a product the mini laser terminal. It is a box of electronics with the laser and the sensor that you can install in your satellite so that your satellite can connect to the Starlink satellites, potentially from above, and hook into this network and get a couple hundred megabits of internet to your spaceship. Because it can laser into the network. The one thing Speedify we try to figure out all this latency and loss and all this stuff automatically to make smart decisions for you. The one thing Speedify cannot figure out is how much you care about the cost of an internet connection. So that's a setting. It's called priority. So always means use it all you want. Don't care. If I need to go on the internet, use it. Cool. Secondary means it's a little more expensive. So it's cool to use it for a speed boost, cool to use it to keep me online. But honestly, if I'm just doing a little bit of internet, primary connection that's working, I prefer you use that. So typically on your iPhone, we'll set your Wi-Fi to primary. We'll set your cellular to secondary. If you're only doing a little bit and the Wi-Fi's working, we just do it on the Wi-Fi. And then the third is backup. This connection's pretty expensive and I prefer you not use it. So Speedify will basically only use it to keep you online and protect you from disasters. All right.
By cost, we mean monetary cost.
Actually, it could be other things. It could be battery. Maybe you have unlimited cellular, but you don't like the fact that cellular uses 3 times as much battery per bit sent as Wi-Fi, and you're trying to save your battery. So how does Speedify know to give up on the connection, right? So for some reason your Starlink is failing or whatever. How does it know to kick over?
It's a combination of regular old statistics that we see when connections are failing, like latency spikes or loss. And also for Starlinks in particular, they can tell us that they're in trouble, that the dish is overheating or that it's toppled over, fully obstructed, or the hardware you're using to connect to it is slower than what it can provide, or that it's about to go to sleep or whatever.
So I woke up early this morning and went through all the error codes on the Starlink and found a couple more that we weren't taking into account. So next version will be even better about when the Starlink starts complaining that it doesn't think it's doing a good job. The dish will actually switch itself to backup mode, right? So a bunch of error codes where it can just straight up tell you, I'm doing a terrible job. I'm having real trouble here. And so a bunch more of them. If you leave the priority automatic, the Starlink dish, when it's doing well, will be primary. Use it all you want. But if the dish starts reporting errors and stuff, we will move it to backup. So if you have any other connections to keep you online, we'll use them instead. Every Starlink dish has the same IP address, 192.168.100.1. And so you can use that IP address to connect, talk to the API, and get all the stats that they have in the Starlink app. But every dish has the same IP. So if you have 2 dishes, normally you can only talk to one. Like the Starlink app can only talk to one. You can only use one at a time. So Speedify, we fixed that. We specifically bind to each one so we can talk to all of them at once. So if you have 3 dishes, Speedify will see and say Starlink on each one. When you click on them in Speedify, you'll get the stats for that dish. What I missed, I thought through that people might have 3 Ethernets that are going to 3 Starlinks. I didn't think through that people might have 3 Ethernets and run two of them to the same Starlink and one to another. M times N. So we end up complaining to you in the current version, if you do that 2 of your Starlinks are pointed the exact same direction and shouldn't you move them? So next version of Speedify, we figure that out. We'll sort out that these 2 are going to the same, and all the graphs and cards and stuff will reflect that. This card here, where Starlink stats, and it says the name which stats it is, Wi-Fi, because it's a Wi-Fi up here that's connected to Starlink. This is actually a comma-separated list in the next version, where if you have 5 different connections connecting to the same Starlink, this will say Starlink stats, Wi-Fi, comma, Ethernet, comma, whatever, so you realize what's going on. Boy, you guys have some complicated network topologies out there, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Did you read about the new engine Starlink has for their SpaceX design for their rockets?
No, tell me about it.
Each rocket engine is 1 ton lighter, 10% more thrust, and they sorted out all the fluid dynamics around the fuel pumps so they can turn all of them on at the same time. I guess the SpaceX rockets had a problem before that you could only turn on a couple at a time or they would stall out because the fuel pumps couldn't get enough fuel to all the engines at once. So you had to start a couple and then start a couple and then start a couple. Apparently, you can just turn on all the rockets at full thrust now. So this is for the new Starship 3.
Is that what's bringing Starlinks into space?
That's what's going to start. I think they are preparing for their first test launch.
And it's reusable mostly?
And it is reusable. Yeah, there used to be the engine and then all the electronics and stuff above it. And now all the electronics have been so shrunken and hidden. Yeah, the head of one of the European launch companies told them to, stop lying and posting photos of half of your rocket engine. Elon Musk replied, lol, because apparently that's the whole, like, they shrank it so much that the competitors, thought they were liars. So the big rockets, the ones that launch Starship, have 42 thrusters on it.
That's a good number.
Each of which are a ton lighter.
Suspicious number, though.
Yeah, it is a suspicious number.